I think you might enjoy some of the clips I'm going to play for you here, sort of in the way that I enjoy horrible things, which I actually don't. So this is going to be pretty horrifying. We talked yesterday at the end of the show about schools reopening or not, and Donald Trump and Mike Pence's desire to see schools open for what are effectively political reasons. Trump believes schools are being kept closed in order to hurt him politically. Now, that's not true, but the fact that he perceives it as political means that forcing them to reopen is also political. In other words, if keeping them closed hurts him politically, opening them, he believes, helps him politically. Donald Trump tweeted 2 days ago, in Germany, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and many other countries, schools are open with no problems. The Dems think it would be bad for them politically if U.S. schools open before the November election, but is important for the families and for the children and families. May cut off funding if not open. Now, Trump is saying we want to be like Europe. We want to do what Europe is doing. But the reason Sweden's not doing so well, but Germany, Denmark, and Norway, the reason they're doing well is because they handled the virus completely differently. If you want to be doing what Europe is doing with schools, then you should have handled coronavirus the way those countries handled it from the beginning. But that's not really the focus today. What we know today is that cases are up, deaths are up. Summer camps have around the country in Arkansas, Missouri, other places have had to close because coronavirus outbreaks have spread among the children. And yet Donald Trump and Mike Pence want schools open, period. Trump and Pence on Wednesday at different events, both were asked about opening schools. And they were asked really specific questions about what are the protocols? How do you ensure safety? And their mouths moved and a ton of stuff came out of their mouths. But they were completely unable or unwilling to articulate just exactly how you open schools safely. So let's look at some of these videos. Let's start with Mike Pence. Pence was asked, what exactly is the plan to open schools safely? Pence spoke for about 90 seconds and he didn't answer the question. I'm going to play the full answer for you because I want you to see that he says nothing about the question that was asked. You're going to hear the question. Or actually, we're going to skip. So you're not going to hear the question. We're going to go right to Mike Pence's answer. And notice how Pence doesn't state anything that would count as an answer to the question.
Well, the plan is to continue to do what we have done from the very beginning. As you heard again this morning, we're at, I believe, 39 million tests that have been performed all across this country. You heard Admiral Girard describe the extraordinary commitment in just one community alone, and what we've conveyed to governors is whatever support they need to get kids back to school, we're going to make sure that they have. We're going to make sure that they have the testing resources. We're currently educating states on the possibility and working with commercial labs on the possibility of what's called pooling, so that literally there could be one test run on, say, 10 samples, and there are particularly universities that already have built into their plans the idea of testing all of their students at the beginning of the academic year and then doing surveillance testing. But we've made it very clear, whether it's testing, whether it's personal protective equipment, or other resources, that we stand ready to provide those resources to the states, and we reiterated that once again to the governors. But the good news is, because of the historic mobilization that President Trump initiated, we literally have hundreds of millions of supplies of personal protective equipment, 59,000 ventilators in the Strategic National Stockpile. Testing is scaling all across America, and we know that come the school year, we'll be ready to meet those needs.
So let's analyze it and go through it. Pence says we're going to do what we've done from the beginning. Well, you failed. That has failed. What you've done from the beginning is one of the worst coronavirus responses in the world. Pence says we've tested 39 million people over a 5-month period. Great. It's not an answer to how do you open schools safely. Pence says we will give them the support they need. They're not asking for support. They're saying it's not safe for you to decide that they have to open. And by the way, they failed to give states the support they needed on testing. So why would we trust them now that they're going to give schools the support that they need? He says we're looking at pool testing. Okay, I mean, it's not really an answer to the question. He says some universities will test their students. Okay. He says we'll send schools PPE if they want it. Nah. And then he says Trump did a historic mobilization. That's a meaningless claim. It's untrue. It was a historically bad mobilization. And then Pence also mentions we have ventilators. There's not an answer there because they don't know how to open schools safely. They don't care if schools open safely. They want schools open in late August, early September, with the hope that it won't implode so quickly that they will get a political benefit going into the November election. That's all they care about. Now, CNN's Caitlin Collins had a good question for Pence. If you insist that these are decisions to be made locally by schools, why is Donald Trump pressuring them to open? And of course, Mike Pence is completely flummoxed by the question.
You're saying describing it as a local decision. So shouldn't it be up to them to decide if they can safely reopen and not the president saying he's going to pressure them to do so?
Well, look, we're going to respect those unique communities that may have challenges, that have rising cases or rising positivity. And but I think you look at the nation as a whole. I think what the President of the United States has made clear is he thinks as we reopen America, we need to reopen America's schools.
So I think you see where that one is going. If a community is unique, they get to decide, Pence says. I guess otherwise Trump decides or something like that. And then Pence also says, look at the nation as a whole. We had another single day new case record. We had multiple single day new case records this week. That's the nation as a whole. In fact, if you want to make a case for safe reopening, you should say, let's not look at the nation as a whole, because places like Florida and Texas and Arizona and California and Oklahoma, where cases are spiking like crazy, they shouldn't open. Maybe you could make the case that in states that have really crushed the curve, and even those states I'm worried are going to start seeing cases now as the numbers nationally go so high, maybe you make the case that you could take the states that are doing really well, maybe even the counties that are doing really well, and look at reopening there. But when Pence says look at the nation as a whole, the nation as a whole is setting new records for cases. And then Pence also says, we also push to reopen churches, as if that's some kind of justification for opening schools. Opening churches was a disaster. And in fact, many churches have been spreader events, spreader locations, clusters. And that's a very bad idea. Now, then it's Trump. Trump just says, we have to do it and everybody wants it. Mike Pence pretends to give an answer, even though he doesn't. Trump doesn't even pretend. Trump just says, we just have to do it. Everybody wants to open.
We want to reopen the schools. Everybody wants it. The moms want it. The dads want it. The kids want it. It's time to do it. You know, our mortality rate is right now at a level that people don't talk about, but it's down tenfold. So you look at deaths are way down from this horrible China virus, and it's a disgrace that it happened. Shouldn't have happened, but it did. And the economy is coming back, and it's coming back strongly. Jobs are setting records. For 2 months ago, they set the record, and then again, almost 5 million new jobs last month, which is a record, and it broke our last record of a month before. So the numbers are happening much faster than anybody anticipated. The stock market, NASDAQ, just hit another record today, and the markets generally are just really a very small amount below where they were at the height of the market when we first had to do this about 4.5, 5 months ago.
Just meaningless, meandering, free association rambling of sorts. Cites no evidence that everybody wants it. Says the mortality rate is low. Remember, our death rate per capita is the 9th highest in the world out of more than 200 countries and territories. He says there are job records. He talks about the NASDAQ, or as he pronounces it, the NASDAQ. And so between Mike Pence and Donald Trump over the last 48 hours, a lot of bluster about we've got to open schools. Everybody wants the schools open. It's all going to be safe. No explanation of how and why it's safe, how they know it's safe, how safety would be maintained. Listen, another important question is, if these were serious people who had a plan for how to safely open, then I would move to the question of what data would say we have to reclose. In other words, would it be a certain number of cases among students? What if a teacher gets a case? What if there's a parent at home with a case? Is it case growth rate or absolute numbers? What would be the metrics where you would say, we're going to do it, but we're going to shut it down if X or Y? I mean, I'm acting like these are serious people, and that's the problem. Last thing, I get the importance of opening schools. A lot of parents can't work if the kids aren't in school. This is huge economically. It's going to be worse economically if you open schools and the kids get the virus and the teachers get the virus and the parents get the virus. That will be much worse economically. Tuesday, 8 p.m., David Pakman Show Chess Tournament. Register for free at davidpakman.com/chess. And remember to get our daily audio podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcasting app is. If you love feeding your intellectual curiosity, but you're always struggling to find the time, check out one of my all-time favorite apps called Blinkist. Blinkist lets you consume an entire book on your way home from work. They take thousands of popular nonfiction books, condense each one into text or audio that you can get through in just 15 minutes, and you get all of the important core ideas and information from that book. It's perfect if you don't have enough time to do all the reading you want to do, or if you just want to sample a book before you buy the entire thing. I recently read A Brief History of Time, of course, by the great Stephen Hawking. This is a book that I have been aware of for so long, and other things got in the way, and it was fantastic to check it out on Blinkist. Blinkist has books on politics, philosophy, science. They have 27 different nonfiction categories, and a subscription is only about $8 a month, and you get the entire library. But you can try it totally free and get 25% off a subscription when you go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. I've put the link right underneath this video.